Hello guys, welcome back to Java session. Today we are going to cover what is exception, what are the types of exceptions, why these exceptions will occur, if you are not handling the exception, what is the problem, if you are handling, what are the benefits, and what is the difference between the checked exception and unchecked exception, and what keywords we use to handle these exceptions along with the example programs. These are all the things which we are going to cover in this particular video. Now, coming to our topic. Sir, what is this exception? Beta, exception is nothing but any unwanted or unexpected event or exceptional event or exceptional problem which rises during the program execution, that is called as a exception. So if you have an exception in the program, what will happen? Better this exception will occur at runtime. So if it is occurring at runtime, what will happen? That disrupts the normal flow of execution. So when the normal flow of execution is disrupted, what will happen? The program will terminate abnormally, or the particular application will terminate it abnormally. So this is which is not at all recommended. Therefore, we need to handle these exceptions by using different blocks, right? That we will see in the future. Now, sir, when these exceptions will occur, but these are the different scenarios when the exceptions are going to be occurred. So when the user is going to enter the invalid data, then there will be a chance of occurring the exception. And the file which you want to open, if the file is not available, then it will raise the file not found exception. And by using a network, you are communicated with the other resource. So in between, meanwhile, whenever you are communicating with the other device, there is a network class. So then there is a chance of uh, raising the exception. And if the JVM is or the system is running out of memory, then JVM will raise the uh, out of memory exception. These are all the different scenarios where the exception will raise, right? Now, sir, what is the benefit out of it? Beta, if you are handling the exceptions, then there will be no abnormal termination. If there is no abnormal termination, then obviously there will be a there won't be data loss, there won't be transaction loss. These are all the different examples, and these are all the different advantages. And you can clearly separate the exception code and the normal code. With this, if there is the exception or the error, you can refer it very fastly, and the code maintenance also very easy. That is the advantage with the exception handling, right? And you can also run the program without crashing while executing the program, right? These are all the different advantages with the exceptions. Now, sir, what is the exception hierarchy? But this is the main exception hierarchy. Throwable is the class which contains the two subclasses, exceptions and errors. I'm not going to handle with the errors because these errors are going to be occurred because of lack of system resources. That may be memory or etc. Now I'm going to handle about the errors. I'm going to talk about the exception, sir. So, sir, what is this exception? As we studied, exception is nothing but any abnormal event which occurs during the program execution. That is nothing but the exception. We have two types of exceptions, that is checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So what is this checked exception? What is this unchecked exception means? But I will take an example so that you can understand very clearly. So here I'm taking the examples for checked and unchecked exceptions. Sir, what are all the unchecked exceptions means? Here, arithmetical exception, array index out of bounds exception, number format exception, and null pointer exception. These are all comes under the unchecked exceptions, right? And what are all the checked exceptions means? Input output exception, file not found exception, SQL exception. These are all comes under the checked exceptions. So what is this checked and unchecked? Beta, here you need to understand your Java application. This is your own Java application. If it is not connected to outer resources, if it is not connected to outer resources, then you'll get this checked exception. That in the sense, this is my Java program. If it is not connected to outer resources, so if it is raising the error or exception, if you are not going to handle, it's fine because it is your own Java application. That in the sense in unchecked exceptions. Sir, why we are calling unchecked? Because this is not going to be checked by the compiler. Here, if you have these kind of exceptions or errors, these are not going to be checked by the compiler. That's what we are calling it as unchecked exceptions. Now, that means handling is optional. Whether you want to handle or not, that is a optional. Handling is optional in case of the unchecked exceptions, right? So, sir, if I handle, what will happen? Better if you are handling, then there will be no abnormal termination. So if there is no abnormal termination, that in the sense program will execute properly and you'll get the output. Sir, if I don't handle the exception, what will happen? Beta, if you are not going to handle the exception, then there will be abnormal termination. So if there is a abnormal termination, obviously either data loss or transaction loss is going to be occur, right? That is optional. Whether you want to handle it or not, it is optional because it is your program. Here, the compiler is not going to involve. Whereas in case of checked exception, here you are interacting with the outside world. That in the sense your Java application is connected with outer resources. So whenever you are dealing with the outer resources, definitely you should handle the exception. If there is an exception, you should handle. If you are not going to handle the, you don't care about yourself, that is fine. You don't care about your Java program, that is fine. But whenever this is connected to outer resource, that means, for example, in case of input output exception, that in the sense we are connected with the resource that is keyboard. If in case of file not found exception, that in the sense we are connected with the file. And if you are in case of SQL exception, you are connected with the database. That in the sense, some other file, some other software is running along with your program. So if there is an exception in your program, if you are not taking care, that is fine. But you cannot spoil the other resource. If there is an exception in the other resource, definitely you should handle. Otherwise, compiler will not allow you to move on. So that's what this is going to be checked by the compiler. That's what we are calling it as a checked exception, right? So here the handling is mandatory. The handling is mandatory, right? Sir, if I don't handle, what will happen? Better if you don't handle, you won't get the class file in case of the checked exceptions. This is all about the checked exception and unchecked exception. Sir, can we take an example on this checked exception and unchecked exception? Of course, 1 minute, better. I will show you an example on this. Now, here we have an example. Right. So my intention is what I want to do. I want to read data from a file which is located in the D drive. So, and I want to display the data on the monitor or the console. So this is a file in which is available in D drive, checked exceptions folder. There I have a text file, a text file. I want to read the data from this file and I want to display it on the monitor. This is my intention, right? For that purpose, I am writing the program. So here I'm importing the required packages, IO package, because this file reader and buffer reader, these are all the predefined classes. They are available in the IO package. That's what I'm importing the IO package. Next, I'm taking the class. There I'm taking the main method. Now, by using file reader, I'm going to read the data from this file, right? Now, here, if you see, I'm creating object to the file reader. Some file is equal to new file reader. I'm attaching where I'm going to read the data. D drive, checked exceptions there, a.txt. From that file, I want to read the data. Now, so the read data, I'm moving into the buffer. From there, I'm going to print the data on the monitor by using the read line method. Read line, which is used to read the line at a time. Then I'm closing this file input. Then I'm closing the main method. Then I'm closing the class, right? So if you see here, just I written the program. I didn't compile anything, but still the compiler is showing the error here. So what type of error, right? If you see here, what it is saying here, the file reader, whenever you are reading the data, it is showing the error. Sir, why it is showing? Because we are not yet compiled and run. Beta, in case of checked exceptions, you should provide the alternate. The compiler first it will ask you, like, for example, this file is not available. What is your alternate? Either you should throw it and catch it, or you should declare to be thrown, right? That in the sense, what you can handle the exception in two ways. Either you can use the throws keyword so that if it is a predefined exception, that is going to be handled by the system, or you can use the try and catch. So you need to specify the alternate method. If this is not available, what is your next action? That you need to specify. That in the sense, you can handle by using try and catch, or you must be that exception must declare to be thrown, right? So here, let's say, sir, I don't want to handle, the system want to handle. What I'm doing, I'm adding the throws declaration. That in the sense, if we are adding the thrown declaration, that in the sense, you are throwing that particular exception by using throws keyword. The exception type is file not found exception. Sir, where we have this exception? This file not found is the exception, or it is a subclass of input output exception. So here still you are getting one more error. If you go here, what it is saying, add throws declaration or surrounded with the try and catch. Either you need to handle, or that need to be declared to be thrown. So what I'm doing, I'm adding the throws, right? So sir, where it is? It is in the input output exception class. So if you are throwing the input output exception class, that will handle both. That is uh, file reader exception as well as a read line exception. Now you can run it and you can get the output. You can see the output here. So welcome to the test file working and bye. Sir, for example, now run the same program without throwing the exception. Now I won't throw the exception. Does it specify, or is the system is going to tell what to do? Of course. Now I'm going to run it. 1 minute, beta. Just compile and run it. So what is your class name? Check only, not checked. So Java space check.java. Now see the exception. Save this and run it again. Now you can see very clearly unreported exception, that is file not found. What it is saying, must be caught or declared to be thrown, right? Either you should catch it and by using try and catch, or declare to be thrown. Either you should do this or that in case of checked exception.